During a recent Coldplay concert, the camera was scanning the crowd looking for couples to feature. Chris Martin, the lead singer, was encouraging them to do cute things, like kissing, while the band played something romantic. But then the camera landed on a couple that acted strange. The moment they realized they were on screen, they quickly turned away, hiding their faces and trying to flee the spotlight. Even Chris Martin noticed the awkward reaction and joked, either they're really showing or they're having an affair. Unfortunately, he was right about the second one. What was supposed to be a sweet moment turned into one of the most infamous infidelity scams ever caught on camera. Viewed over 300 million times across social media, the man is Andy Byron, CEO of a strong company valued at $1.3 billion. The woman, Kristen Cabot, the company's chief people officer and head of HR. They were not married to each other, but together they both had children. After the footage went viral, neither of them made any public statements. There were no apologies or clarifications. Andy's wife, Megan Kerrigan Byron, moved his last name from her social profiles and deactivated her accounts. The silence of the added to the firestorm. Maybe if they didn't overreact, the world would have never known. This is a true story. In the late 1980s, scientists on a remote island began injecting monkeys with venom from 12 deadly snake species, aiming to develop a universal antidote. Each monkey received carefully measured doses in a high-security lab surrounded by dense jungle. Unexpectedly, instead of dying, many monkeys developed resistance and started producing venomous saliva. Over weeks, their behavior shifted. They became aggressive, territorial, and showed physical signs of a venomous ability. One night, some of the monkeys escaped, fighting guards and researchers, killing several with their venom. They fled into the jungle, multiplied rapidly, and soon raided a nearby village, attacking residents and wiping the entire village. Authorities quarantined the island, declaring it off limits. Now the island is ruled by a new, deadly species of venomous monkeys, an experiment gone horribly wrong. This is a true story. In a quiet research facility deep in the Amazon, scientists placed mirrors in front of various monkey species to study their self-recognition. Most monkeys either ignored the mirror or responded as if it were another animal in their space. But one specific species, Macaca nemestrina, the pig-tailed macaque, began reacting in increasingly disturbing ways. One macaque stared silently into the mirror for 18 straight days, refusing to move, eat, or sleep. It died on the 18th day without a single movement since the test began. Another pig-tailed macaque stared at the mirror for 15 minutes, then began violently beating itself. It fractured its own skull before collapsing to the floor. A third macaque attacked the mirror instantly, then began chewing on the broken glass. It kept eating until it collapsed, its hands shredded, its mouth torn. Disturbed, researchers began calling this reaction the mirror curse. No other species showed any signs of similar distress or self-harm. Some researchers theorized the pig-tailed macaque saw something in the mirror that others couldn't. Others believed the mirror wasn't just reflecting, but revealing. Eventually, the study was shut down and the mirror was locked away. Did you know some dolls made in the early 1900s were crafted using real human hair and teeth? Especially in England and parts of Germany, it was considered fashionable, even sentimental, to create dolls from materials taken from real people. Mothers would save locks of their children's hair, or even their baby teeth, and give them to doll makers to be used in handcrafted toys. It was seen as a way to preserve childhood, but these dolls often aged badly. Over time, the organic materials decayed. The hair became brittle and thin. The teeth darkened or cracked. Some dolls still exist in private collections today, kept in climate-controlled rooms, because they smell of rot when exposed to warmth. Museums rarely display them, and collectors say many of these dolls seem to have odd features like misaligned eyes, chipped lips that almost look like grins, and fingernails. Real ones, glued on tiny porcelain fingers. In one disturbing case, a doll found in an attic in Derbyshire in 1976 contained not just teeth and hair, but a small human rib bone inside the torso, likely used to stiffen the structure. No one ever discovered where it came from. Even now, doll restorers occasionally open the antique heads and find child teeth rattling inside. This is a true story. A pig heart inside a human body. This was the doctor's attempt in 2022, something no one had ever done before. The pig's heart had been genetically modified to beat inside a human body. Its DNA was edited to avoid triggering human rejection. The recipient was a terminal patient with no other options. And January 7, 2022, doctors performed the transplant. The pig heart began to beat. For the first time in history, a non-human heart kept a human alive. The world reacted with fascination and fear. At first, the patient was alert and joking, but complications began within weeks. The pig heart showed signs of sudden swelling. The heart began to fail. On March 8, 2022, he died. Autopsy showed porcine virus in the transplanted heart. The world had crossed the line, and there was no turning back. This is a true story. On a humid July night, Kyle and 5 friends floated in his 27-foot center console boat near a barriered island lighthouse. Music played as they drifted in the dark lagoon, the only light coming from the distant shore. As conversation faded, one of the friends urged everyone to cut the music. He'd heard something. The group sat in silence. Then a woman's scream pierced the air. They called out. A voice responded, "Help, I'm being followed." The scream came from a small island nearby, too far from either mainland or barrier island to be a trick of distance. Kyle started the engine and steered toward the shore. Anchored, the group fanned out with flashlights, calling for the woman, but no one was there. Suddenly a chilling, muffled scream rang out from the other side. They ran, hearts racing barefoot through brush. Reaching the far side, they found no one, but they saw the rippling wake of a boat speeding away into the darkness. They called the police. Bay Patrol arrived and a search began, but the boat was never found. No reports of missing persons, no trace of the woman. Whether it was a real abduction or something else, they never found out. Only the memory of the scream remained. This is a true story. An Uber driver experienced with late-night shifts picked up a request from a convenience store one quiet night. When he arrived, the store was closed and the parking lot empty. He spotted the passenger, a nervous man in a tattered hoodie, pacing and constantly looking over his shoulder. Despite a strong gut feeling to cancel, the driver let him in. The passenger sat silently, staring unblinking through the rearview mirror, unsettling the driver. When the driver turned on the radio, the man barked for it to be turned off. Then, strangely smiling, he spoke about quitting Uber after thieves stole from his car, commenting on how much trust a driver puts in a passenger. The man's words became increasingly erratic and disturbing, muttering apologies to someone unknown. Near the passenger stop, he suddenly shouted that the driver missed the turn and demanded to pull over. The driver complied just as a police car appeared behind them. The man slid out and vanished before the driver could react. Weeks later, the driver learned that the convenience store nearby had been robbed that very night. He had unknowingly given a ride to a dangerous criminal and narrowly escaped harm. And for all we know, that could have been his last ride of that night and of his life. So if you ever let a stranger in your car, be careful. Do you know why Iran is nearly impossible to invade? It starts with geography. Iran is massive, about 7 times the size of the United Kingdom, and it's surrounded by natural defenses. To the west lie the towering Zagros Mountains, and to the south, harsh, rugged coastlines. Between them are 2 enormous deserts that create a vast, nearly impassable barrier for any invading force. These alone make conventional invasion incredibly difficult, but that's just the beginning. Iran also controls the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow waterway through which nearly 20% of the world's oil supply passes. Any threat to this route would send global markets into chaos, giving Iran immense strategic leverage. Then there's the oil itself. Iran holds the 4th largest proven oil reserves in the world. In most wars, fuel runs out quickly, but Iran could sustain itself for centuries without outside help. Beyond resources, there's the human factor. Iran has over 80 million citizens, many of whom are deeply patriotic and historically resilient. From foreign invasions to internal coups, Iranians have shown time and again they're willing to fight for their homeland. And while Iran's uranium stockpiles aren't the world's largest, they're enough to keep its nuclear program active and dangerous. Have you heard of the Window Man? In small towns across America, people began waking up between 3 and 4 a.m. for no reason. When they looked outside, they saw a man standing perfectly still at their window. He wore a long coat that looked like it belonged to another time. He never moved, never spoke, and never tried to come inside. Some tried to film him, but he always vanished the moment they hit record. Others would turn on the lights, but he'd already be gone. Those who saw him started having nightmares about windows. Some dreamed of him crawling on the ceiling outside their window. Others dreamed he stood behind them, reflected in the window. Even after waking, they couldn't shake the feeling they were still being watched. No one has ever seen him in the daylight, but each night from 3 to 4 a.m., he returns to another window. Have you heard of the Bloody Mary? People say, if you chant her name 3 times into a mirror, her ghost appears. They say she'll show you your future, or death. Some say you'll see your future spouse. Others say you'll see a skull, meaning death. As kids, we dared each other to summon her in the mirror. Most of us couldn't even finish saying her name. One girl did, and she screamed before the mirror shattered. The next morning, her parents found the door locked from the inside. They broke it down and found her staring me vividly in the mirror, smiling. She never spoke again. Some think the mirror never showed her Mary, herself. The mirror was thrown out, but someone picked it up. Now, they say, she lives in every mirror, just waiting for you to call her. Did you know there's a museum that holds a painting said to be so cursed it causes viewers to cry? The painting is called The Anguished Man. It's a portrait of a screaming figure, twisted, melting as if in agony. The colors are dark and stormy, with streaks of red like blood running down the canvas. According to legend, the artist mixed his own blood into the paint and took his life shortly after completing it. The painting is kept in a small private museum in northern England. Visitors are warned before entering the room. Some say the moment they see it, their chest tightens. Others burst into tears without understanding why. A few faint on the spot. Staff report flickering lights, sudden drops in temperature, and whispers when the room is empty. Security footage once captured a woman collapsing in front of the painting. She later claimed she saw that the face moved, screaming silently at her. Another man said he felt someone grab his arm while he was alone. The museum refuses to remove it. They say it's too dangerous to move, and past attempts caused accidents. One curator broke his leg, another crashed his car. No one knows who the painter really was, or why he created it. It's believed the Anguished Man doesn't just hang on the wall, it watches, and never forgets who looked too long. Have you heard of the Sentinel Island? Most people will never get to see it, and that's exactly how the island wants it. Hidden in the Bay of Bengal, it's one of the last untouched places on Earth. No ports, no airstrips, no roads, just dense jungle, white sand, and a tribe that violently rejects the outside world. The Sentinels live in complete isolation. They don't speak our languages. They don't want our help. Every time someone gets too close, they're driven back or disappear. In 1974, a film crew brought gifts, but one of the crew members left with an arrow in the leg. And in 2006, 2 fishermen drifted too close. They were found buried in the sand. In 2018, an American missionary came ashore. He never came back. The Indian government has made it illegal to approach within 3 nautical miles, not to protect us from them, but to protect them from us. They have no immunity to modern disease, and they have no reason to trust outsiders. Some believe there is more to the island. Strange satellite images show symmetrical clearings in the forest. And audio sensors once recorded deep, repeating pulses from inside the jungle. But maybe the real mystery is simpler. They've survived by staying hidden, and they want it to stay that way, because some places aren't meant to be entered. This is a true story. In 1963, a 6-year-old boy stabbed his sister and never spoke another word. He was sent to a sanitarium. For 15 years, he never said a word, not even once. One stormy night in 1978, he escaped. No one saw it coming. He stole a mask, coveralls, and a car. Then he drove to his hometown. That Halloween night, people began to feel watched, but they didn't know by who. One by one, he began to follow them, and then they started disappearing. Dr. Loomis, the psychiatrist who studied him, said it best. I met this 6-year-old child with this blank, pale, emotionless face. While others partied, a girl was babysitting, but someone was already inside the house. No matter how fast you run, he just walks. And
Somehow, he always catches up. They shot him 6 times. He fell off a balcony. When they checked, he was gone. Every Halloween, someone swears they see a man in a white mask just standing there. If you ever see him, don't blink. Don't turn away. Don't even breathe. This is a true story. A young woman fled the city's chaos and found refuge in a remote Oregon cabin, surrounded by towering trees and endless wilderness. The silence was a sharp contrast to the noise she'd escaped. The old cabin, built with thick wooden beams and a stone fireplace, smelled of pine and aged paper. One afternoon there was a knock. An elderly woman stood there, long gray hair, piercing blue eyes. She called herself Michelle and offered a basket of preserves. Her presence was unsettling, especially when she warned, "Keep your lanterns bright, your doors locked tight, and your senses sharper than any blade." That night, a fierce storm raged. Michelle returned, soaked and urgent, claiming she saw someone near the woodpile. The woman searched outside with a flashlight, but found nothing. Michelle's eyes nervously flicked toward the dark woods, as if expecting someone. Later, the woman woke to a branch snapping outside. She saw Michelle standing at the forest edge. When Michelle began to turn, she ducked away. When she looked again, Michelle was gone. Soon after, a bald man forced his way inside. Terrified, she locked herself in the bathroom and called police. They found no trace and said Michelle's cabin had been abandoned for decades. She left, wondering if Michelle was a guardian spirit or something darker haunting the woods. Do you know what country has the largest size? At first you might think of the United States of America or Canada. Maybe most of you would say it is Russia, although some rank pretty high like Sudan, which is close to the podium in 5th place, or Cameroon, second with an average of 6.56 inches. They're not the best. So who's first? China, maybe? Nope, it's terrible. With an average of 4.85 inches, they're not even in the top 100. Other Asian countries are even worse. Although size isn't everything, the rumor holds true with the unfortunate trophy of the worst average across the 5 continents. The bottom 5 countries in this ranking are all Asian, like Cambodia, dead last with an average of just 3.94 inches. Over in Europe, things are a bit better, with France ranking 11th with a respectable average of 6.20 inches, ahead of Italy at 19th, Germany at 40th, and Spain at 53rd, but only the Netherlands make it into the top 10. The real winners are the South American countries, with 3 of them in the top 5, and Ecuador leading the way with an average of 6.94 inches. This is a true story. In the 1960s, researchers at a behavioral neuroscience lab set out to explore the brain's reward system. They chose rats as test subjects, given their well-understood brain structure and social behavior. Through surgery, scientists implanted tiny electrodes into a region of the rat's brain called the septal area, believed to control pleasure and motivation. After recovery, each rat was placed in a box with a lever that activated the electrode. One press produced a burst of euphoria through direct brain stimulation. The rats quickly became addicted, pressing the lever hundreds of times an hour. They stopped eating, drinking, and sleeping, choosing stimulation over survival. Many deteriorated rapidly, some dying from starvation or exhaustion. Scientists dubbed them wirehead rats. The study proved pleasure could override instinct and sparked major ethical concerns about addiction, free will, and neuroscience's boundaries. Did you know what the movie Up was inspired by? Larry Walters, a truck driver from California, wanted to fly, but since he couldn't become a pilot, he came up with a wild plan. He attached 45 helium-filled weather balloons to a sturdy lawn chair, packed a BB gun, sandwiches, a parachute, and a radio, and launched from his girlfriend's backyard. His original idea was to float about 30 feet into the air and enjoy the view. But instead, Larry rocketed over 15,000 feet into the sky, higher than most small planes fly. He drifted dangerously into the airspace above Los Angeles International Airport, causing airline pilots to report man in a chair with balloons. Eventually, he used his BB gun to pop a few balloons and began descending, crash landing in power lines but escaping injury. He was immediately arrested, but when asked why he did it, Larry famously said, "A man can't just sit around." The incident became a media sensation and inspired books, songs, and even movies, one of them being the iconic movie from Pixar, Up, where instead of a chair they recreated an old man with a flying house. Larry's flight remains one of the most bizarre true aviation stories in history. Did you know there is a jellyfish that can live forever? This creature is called Turritopsis dohrnii, nicknamed the immortal jellyfish. Unlike other animals, when this jellyfish is injured or old, it can rewind its life cycle. It reverts back to its juvenile polyp stage, starting life all over again. This unique ability lets it potentially avoid death, making it biologically immortal. Scientists are fascinated by this jellyfish because it challenges what we know about aging. They study its DNA to understand how it reverses aging and repairs itself. If humans could unlock this secret, it might lead to breakthroughs in medicine and aging. But the immortal jellyfish still faces dangers like predators and disease. Despite this, its life cycle renewal makes it one of the most unique creatures on Earth. This tiny jellyfish teaches us that nature holds many incredible secrets and reminds us that life's mysteries are often stranger than fiction. Did you know some houses in America are built to kill you? In a small town in Pennsylvania, a family thought they had found their dream home. White siding, red shutters, cozy porch. But when they studied the floor plan, they noticed something impossible. A hidden room sealed between walls. No doors, no windows, just black space that shouldn't exist. They called an architect thinking it was a mistake, but he found more. Hallways ending in dead walls, doors that led to nowhere, windows opening into brick. The house was twisted, like someone had designed it for another purpose. The man who investigated became obsessed. He dug through records and discovered this wasn't the only one. Across the U.S., other homes had the same impossible blueprints, and almost all of them shared the same fate: missing families, entire households erased overnight. Locals whisper that these strange houses are alive, that the hidden rooms are not empty. Once you enter, the doors shift behind you, the walls close, and you're never seen again. Some claim if you press your ear against the drywall at night, you'll hear scratching. So if you ever buy a house in America, study the blueprints carefully, because if you find a dead space between the walls, you've already been marked. This isn't legend, this is America's own strange houses. Did you know there are bodies on Mount Everest that are used as trail markers? Mount Everest, the highest point on Earth, is also one of the deadliest. Above 8,000 meters lies the death zone, where the air is so thin your body starts shutting down. Oxygen is scarce. Thinking becomes foggy. Every step is torture. Over 300 climbers have died on Everest, and most of them are still up there. Their bodies, frozen solid by the cold, can't be recovered. Helicopters can't fly that high. It's too dangerous to carry the dead back down, so they stay where they fell. One of the most infamous is a man known as Green Boots, believed to be Indian climber Sewang Paljor. He died during a blizzard in 1996. His body rests in a cave near the main route to the summit. Curled on his side, his neon green boots poking out of the snow. For years, climbers would say, once you pass Green Boots, you're almost there. Then there's Sleeping Beauty, an American climber who died just short of the summit. Her body sits upright, strapped to her gear, her long hair frozen in the wind. Her face is tilted upward, eyes closed. Some climbers pause in silence. Others step over the bodies, barely looking. Everest doesn't just hold the dreams of the living. It keeps the dead as warnings.